In 2008, we had a financial crash, and now, 10 years later, we are experiencing a political one. But there should be no bailout for the political establishment. We need to take back control of the system. The problems of the future cannot be solved with the approaches of the past. Looking backwards is tempting, but it's futile. We want to be the architects of the 21st century, not curate the 20th. Our country is in paralysis. Democracy requires vigorous debate and discussion, an exchange of ideas that needs to be constantly renewed. And yet political discourse seems to be just a parade of prejudice. The public has lost faith in parties to deliver the answer. Too often, politicians focus on winning at all costs, when our long-term interests suggest they could find compromise. Institutionally, the old parties are stuck in the past with a bloated system that encourages lazy, safe seats. The same old faces give us the same old answers. Institutional parties, with a vacuum of leadership and run by ideological purists, have created a perfect storm. At best, their solutions are hopelessly outdated, and at worst, they take us for fools. First austerity, and then Brexit. And the lies that sit behind both have clouded the need for pragmatic reform in our country. As a police officer, I had to enact laws that just weren't practical, and I got fed up with politicians legislating without actually having understood the work. It is terrible to see my ex-colleagues at crisis point in the face of more and more cuts. They've eroded the morale, and they have driven the public's feelings of insecurity. And as a magistrate, watching helplessly as the foundations of our legal system, local justice, have been ripped from under our feet, it is, quite frankly, unforgivable. All choices made by the institutional parties who for years have used the EU as a get-out-of-jail-free card in a game of high-stakes monopoly. Poor transport infrastructure in the north isn't down to Brussels. It's down to decades-long failure of governments to invest. The EU hasn't starved local authorities of the money they need for social services either. Westminster has. Brussels is not the problem. Here we are at the point of leaving the EU with a deal that offers us no control, no seat at the table, exactly the opposite of what we were offered. So what happens next? Will sense prevail? Will there be another vote? A people's vote will give us an opportunity to retain our seat at the table. We, Renew, want that. If it's the next step and we win, we intend to fight for reform of the EU with the same zeal as we do here. Yet no scenario allows the established parties with their ideological straitjackets to respond to the new challenges and uncertainties of the post-Brexit world. At Advance, we, like Renew, saw the political world around us crashing, and we faced a choice: agonise or organise. We chose to organise. We ran candidates in the elections and changed the conversation. One small local party created the difference. People told us they had had their fill of rock-star politicians, overly charismatic figures making grand promises and then failing to deliver on them. Throughout public life, there is a deficit of fairness, equality, and democratic connection. That is a deficit we must eliminate. It's time for a very British revolution of patriots who love our country. Did you know that on this day, in 1859, Darwin published his Origin of Species theory? Instead of ideas all of constant evolution, the need to adapt changes in the environment. And we know that ordinary people are capable of achieving extraordinary things, particularly when given the freedom to deliver and the purpose to follow. So it's time for a new generation of politicians to step up, drawing lessons from the failures of the past, and to build a political system fit for the 21st century. Politicians have lied to us, day after day, and the best we thought we could do was vote tactically. It was deeply depressing last year to talk on the doors during the general election and to be told by people that they were voting because they were trying to stop something rather than voting for something they believed in. We want people to vote for positive change, but we understand our electoral system really discourages that, so Renew will fix it. We will take back control of our political system and ensure every vote matters in future elections. We will restore faith in politics. We will sweep away objectionable parliamentary process that gets in the way of democracy. We will rebuild the connections between the people and the political representatives. We will bring talented people with real life experience into the Westminster bubble, and then we'll pop it. New people from outside politics standing for Parliament. New faces anyone can identify with who understand modern Britain putting people first. New ideas to make politics more representative, more democratic, and more responsive. Just imagine a government that inspires people to be the best version of themselves while bringing out the best in their communities and in our country. We're here to repair our society, revitalise our economy, and restore hope in the future. And yes, we're small, but we're also innovative, we're very committed, we have funding, we are well organised, and we're growing fast. And most importantly, we have the most incredible candidates, bringing a wealth of knowledge and experience from all corners of this country. This is one big room of ex-Tory, Labour, Lib Dem, Green voters, although I'm not sure how many of you are mutinous UKIPers. Because it is only with individual pieces of a jigsaw that we can create the whole picture and carve out the solutions to the issues that prevail. We need to value presence in our communities, the police on the beat, small businesses on the high street, nurses on the ward, carers in the home. Those people are the lifeblood of our nation, but they've been hung out to dry by austerity. It has strangled services, development, and innovation. If we don't act swiftly, our future will be characterised by extreme ideology, more division and defensiveness, instability for business, and an economy and a poorer future for our country. We need a fresh start, we need decisive action, and positive disruption. We need to sort out our homes, ensuring an affordable housing supply through a government-owned Crown corporation. We need to save our environment, implementing a new Clean Air Act to help treat the epidemic of pollution. We must invest in preventing illness, spending more on public health to stop the rise of diseases like diabetes. We can provide a sure educational start, a major funding boost to primary and secondary school budgets for innovative programs. As a mother, I have 3 small children. Sadly, I mastered none of them. But I know the impact of support networks and how much they can make the difference. We will make a good life the new normal. Our blueprint policy document is the start of that conversation for a practical roadmap that helps us to create the change that matters. Imagine if you could put ideology to the side to deliver what this country actually needs. With public services rejuvenated, productivity invigorated, and our political system reformed, we can reboot our country. Remember, we are not living through an era of change. We're living through a change of era. As we transition to this new era, people are questioning the nation's institutions, principles, and values. Principled politicians need to lead that process, or other, less principled ones will. Real change only comes when courageous individuals come together and demand it. And you, the change makers, will lead the charge.